Well, hello and happy gaming, everybody. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and as of about an hour and a half ago, my poll was closed. I only got a few votes, but it was enough to help me make a decision. And that decision was, with three votes in comparison to the other one's one, we are going to be doing the Rathalos themed build today. So thank you everyone for your votes. Now let's get into how exactly I'm defining what qualifies as Rathalos theme. So, for those who don't know, Rathalos is a flying wyvern from the Monster Hunter series. It is known as the King of the Skies and is defined by its desire to want to stay in the air, so flying. I mean, I guess that seems obvious. It's described as a flying wyvern, so hey, no shit, Sherlock. It's fire breath, and just the way that it likes to bully others around with its sheer size and muscle. So with that in mind, I decided to go for the rule rope for its damage increase. Raphelos is a creature that loves to bombard people from high above, so I figured bouncing fireball would work well. But then other versions of Rathalos get more destructive, bigger fireballs. Thinking of Azure Rathalos, Silver Rathalos, and for those who have played Monster Hunter Generations or Generations Ultimate, big old daddy Dread King Rathalos. So I decided that for my signature I would go Exploding Fireball. I was thinking about Fire Breath, but I think that would make a bit more sense for a different build. And then to simulate its dash attack, the one where it just goes into the air and then just jet lines towards you, I'm going to use Razor Burst. And then for those times which it goes up in the air and then just tries to dive down on you, I'm using Airborne Slam. So we've got a very heavy movement-based damage build because that's Rathalos. Now, the one thing that and as far as the relic, I'm going with Merchant's Cart for increased power. I could have gone with Noxious Dappercap because Rathalos does like to poison opponents with its talons, but I just didn't have room for it in the build. I could have maybe cheated it in, but I'm not gonna do that, because I'm better than that. No, I'm not. So, we now have Rathalos coming in to take on the Wonder Twins, Atlas, because of course it's Atlas, and, was it Shu in part number 3? So if you wanna put it to other Monster Hunter monsters, that would be the equivalent of, say, Astalos or Lagiacrus. Kaboom, bitch. Let's see, Atlas, I guess that would be like Duramboros. And then, let's see, Shu. I mean, that could be like another Rathalos, or actually, you're talking about wind, so the most likely culprit there is Kushala Daora. There we go. Alright. So what are going to be our primary goals in this run? Well, obviously we're going to want to get stronger. No doubt about that. I'm definitely going to want to be picking up the upgrades for my Arcana, and if I had to put them in any particular order, well, I mean, those aren't the ones I would have chosen first, but they are an upgrade. Alright, so I was hoping to get the Bouncing Blaze upgrade quickly, because obviously when you're trying to keep things at bay, you want to keep as many at bay as possible. It's alright, we'll make it. Oh, you guys thought you could take me on? Don't you know that I'm a dragon wearing human clothing? Which, depending on how much many of you know about the interpretation of dragons in, well, D&D, Yeah, they do that. Dragon Shamans love to polymorph into human disguises, and I will take that Yuffie's shawl, thank you. Armor is never a bad thing to have. There we go. Yeah, this feels a lot like Rathalos, just bombard people with fireballs. Actually, for that almost that reason exactly, and because Rathalos has kind of become the face of Monster Hunter, not my personal favorite monster, but certainly not a monster that I dislike either. I've kind of come to call Rathalos like the Monster Hunter version of Ryu from Street Fighter. And it's a little bit of a stretch, to be fair, but because I tend to call Monster Hunter like a 3D fighting game, so to speak, I guess it's like 3D fighting, action RPG, adventure, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But I've taken that to my own personal heart, and there are a number, owie. And there are a number of monsters that I liken basically to well, not monster. I liken the Monster Hunter monsters to Monster Hunter monsters. Really? Oh yes, please boost me. I wasn't necessarily planning on spending all of my gold in one floor, but hey, it just kind of worked out that way. But because of the obvious comparison, I like to compare some of the Monster Hunter monsters to Street Fighter characters. So when you look at it that way, and how some of their moves work, you start to see certain parallels. So, for example, I look at Rathalos as Ryu. And the reason why I do that is because he has a lot of similar moves to Ryu. He's got the Fireball. Well, he doesn't have the Shoryuken, to be fair. That kind of sets him apart. But in this case, it's a little bit less so about the similarities in their moves, and it's kind of the similarities in their... in essentially their function in the series. Rathalos, to me, is very much like the design dock monster, which is, to me, why he seems to be so similar to Ryu, as Ryu is kind of the design dock fighter for Street Fighter. And I've explained that idea before, but for those who either don't remember or weren't watching my channel at that point, I will explain. The design dock character in a fighting game is typically the character that was designed to kind of test out the mechanics, and the one that has the most basic of moves that a lot of the other design choices in the game are built around. Not necessarily the characters, because the characters are always going to kind of be their own thing, but it is the character that's designed to basically model everything else after. And if you want a good example of how that works, think about the original releases of Street Fighter and Street Fighter 2. In the original Street Fighter, the only playable characters were Ken, and if you had a second controller on your TurboGrafx 16, you could play. Did I say that backwards? The original player 1 was Ryu, but if you had a second controller, player 2 was always Ken. And did they have the exact same moves? Yeah, they did. And those similarities carried on into Street Fighter 2 as well, but now you can see that they're essentially using the design dock character to start molding other ideas. Like Chun-Li, who at the time didn't have a fireball when she was first released, but eventually she got one. And then instead of the Tatsumaki, or Hurricane Kick as some people call it, or actually as everyone calls it, because most people can't pronounce the actual name of the move. So allow me to show off my elitism and inform you that it's the Tatsumaki Senpukyaku. Yeah, I'm a dork. Darkseid, that was very weeby of you. Yes, it was. Oh, you son of a bitch. God, I hate those guys. Why aren't you dead? Yeah, it's a very simple question. Why aren't you dead? Well, have you stopped to consider, sir, that maybe I don't want to be dead? I mean, fair point, but have you also stopped to consider that you're just a magical construct? Ah, touché. There's our Bouncing Blaze upgrade. Oh, Bouncing Surge! Problem is, that doesn't really fit the Rathalos theme. I'm gonna try to stick to things that only fit the Rathalos theme. If it turns out that something I have that's something I find, like, if it turns out I need something, and that there's a way I can, justify it using my typical method of loose justifications, then I will. There we go. Looking pretty solid. What are you? That's going to restrict the spells for rogues and archers? Alright. I can live with that. Making them less dangerous seems like a good idea. And then, yes, I will get the Glove of Midas. First of all, it's just going to make more gold drop. So, I mean, that's a big help even as we speak. Why was I going to say that? I feel derpy today, I apologize. But it also powers up Merchant's Cart, which is making us feel less like a base Rathalos and more like an Azure Rathalos. And we've already gotten a couple of armor improvements, so hey, you could even say that maybe we're a Silver Rathalos. Oh, no, you don't. Four, five, six, and again. Yeah, got them before they even got their signature off. That's what I'm talking about. Can I justify Scales of Babylon as a Rathalos? Kind of. Rathalos, it's an Air Arcana. Rathalos is the king of the skies. I say, yeah, it fits. So, speaking of Monster Hunter, lately I've been... Ow. You jerk. Lately I've been getting back into Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which is, of course, the release that came before Monster Hunter World, and, the reason why they came out so close together is because they were essentially developed by two different teams. There was the main team, which was working on developing World. At the same time, we had another team that was working on developing Generations Ultimate, which obviously was done first because essentially it was just Monster Hunter Double Cross moved to the Switch and brought to the West. I can definitely justify Vicious Bunny Ears, even though I only have one Jump Arcana. Though if I happen to find Blazing Vault, hey, I'll take that too. It's kind of like flying, right? It puts me in the air. It's like flying for a second, right? Right? get that sweet, sweet speed increase for like a second. That's right, you can't even get close to this dragon, baby. You got nothing. I can sort of justify Ward of Flames, and I can kind of justify Spiraling Typhoon. But I'm also thinking I might want to go for something else just so I'm not completely reliant on air and fire. I don't know, it'll kind of depend on what relics are available. Because I am also thinking that it would be wonderful to be able to... like in that little Razor Burst trap there? Oh yeah. But it would be nice to be able to power up Merchant's Cart, and to have just a little bit more under my belt just as far as base strength is concerned. But to continue with what I was saying, so those two games came out at honestly kind of similar times because they were being worked on by two separate teams. Now, the primary team, of course, had all the resources to make Monster Hunter World super pretty. Now, the original team basically just had updated 3DS models to work with, and that was about it. So, when they were putting that game on the Switch, the decision, or rather, when they were designing the game in the first place, putting it on the Switch. Hey, look at my Nintendo Switch. I'm not going to pretend like I can talk today, so you're just going to have to put up with me pretending like English is my first language. But Dark Sage, English is your first language! That's what you think. In reality, my real first language is nonsensical gibberish. Bet you didn't know that, did you? But since the secondary team didn't really have the greatest of resources to work with when designing Generations, and eventually Generations Ultimate, they decided that instead of focusing on trying to make everything super graphical and like, oh my god, you guys, this is the craziest thing you've ever seen in your lives, they decided to go the route of, I mean, first of all, it was designed more or less to be just a celebration of all things Monster Hunter. There is a huge number of monsters in the game, and even though there really aren't many subspecies, just the number of primary monsters that are in the game is already enough to have variety for the rest of your days. But then, in order to further improve the amount of variety in the gameplay, they decided to introduce special fighting styles. So, allow me to explain. I will take the bunny ears, and even though I don't think Rathalos is the type to work with fairies, I mean, hey, why the hell not? There's a time for everything, right? Oh yeah, I forgot about Dr. Song for a second there. Do I have anything I can give her? I probably will after the boss. So, for those of you who are familiar with Monster Hunter World, which I imagine is many of you considering the immense popularity of that game. And by the way, speaking of my ultra weebiness, okay, you can fuck right off, First Mage. There we go. So, I've been playing Monster Hunter for quite a while, since Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, actually, which essentially was the upgraded version of Monster Hunter Tri, which came out on the Wii, and then 3 Ultimate came out on the 3DS and the Wii U. Thank you for the renewing potion vial. You are a gentlewoman and a scholar. I don't know what the female equivalent of gentleman is, I'm sorry. I probably sound like a complete asshole saying that, but I just don't know the correct term. So, to say that, yeah, I knew about the popularity of Monster Hunter before y'all, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit elitist and weedy, but there's also some truth to it. I'd been playing Monster Hunter well before World, so I had plenty of knowledge on how the series worked well before World. But anyway, let me get back to what I was saying. So for those of you who have played Monster Hunter, you know that there are 14 main weapon classes. See if I can remember them all off the top of my head. Shouldn't be difficult because I've been playing the game a lot. There's Great Sword, Long Sword, Sword and Shield, Dual Blades, Lance, Gun Lance, Hunting Horn, Hammer. See, I already said Dual Blades, so let's not get into repeats. Woo! Catch me if you can, bitch! See, Hunting Horn, Hammer, Lance, Gun Lance. Let's see. Light Bowgun, Heavy Bowgun, Bow, and Insect Glaive, and Charge Blade. So those are the 14 primary weapon classes. Those are all there in Monster Hunter World as well. They didn't add in anything new, and I kind of wish they would, because I know in some of the more MMO-y Monster Hunter games, like Freedom Unite, there's also the Tone Fuzz, which is the game's equivalent to a punching weapon, which, yeah, it's as unrealistic as it is to go after giant monsters with essentially just your mitts. We are talking about a game that's basically an anime power fantasy, so why the hell not? And then I believe there was also the medium bowgun, which what makes it medium in comparison to the heavy and the light, I don't know, but those are two weapon classes that aren't in just the base series. Those are only available in Freedom Unite and games like that. I cannot justify magnetic breakers as Rathalos, so we'll be leaving that behind. And I can only partially justify magnetic follow-up, but not enough to say that I should actually take it, so leaving those. So, in Monster Hunter World, all of those weapons play completely differently. They have their own base moves. They have their own mechanics. And it's very well fleshed out, I'm not gonna lie, and there are moves that they have in Monster Hunter World that aren't present in the other Monster Hunter games. That having been said, I definitely think I like the system in Generations Ultimate better. But why would you like the systems from an older game? It's not even the popular one! Well, popular doesn't necessarily mean right, or even in my opinion, best. To be fair, a lot of people will say Monster Hunter World is best because either A, it's their only Monster Hunter game, or B, in comparison to the other ones, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but the base game of Monster Hunter World is definitely the easiest Monster Hunter game out there. And I think that's why a lot of people... I don't even have a cursed item, so that's kind of pointless. So for a lot of people, it's the game that they gravitate towards the most because it is the one that's the easiest. Well, that's a pretty bold claim, Darkseid, but what makes it so easy? Well, a number of things. First of all, in the original games, when you were doing something like reloading your weapon or using an item, drinking a potion, whatever the case may be, your character was held still. It was kind of like the Resident Evil, why do I have to hold still to aim my weapon thing. And, you know, from the common sense standpoint, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I will agree with everyone on that. However, it made sense from a mechanical standpoint. You were... Oh, hi, Taffy. What it basically meant is that you had to... Alright. And... go. There we go. I want it, but I can't justify dynamic disarray with the Rathalos build. Like, I'm thinking about it, but not only is there never been an electric Rathalos, but Dark Sage, that could be Astalos! Yeah, but Astalos is not Rathalos. I'm sure we can agree on that. Those are two very separate things. But furthermore, I can't think of a move that behaves like that coming from Rathalos, where it just, you throw something and it bounces around like a... No, I can't justify that. But make no mistake, I want it really bad. But I'm sticking to my guns, and right now my guns are telling me that in order for this to be a Rathalos themed build, we need to stick to the parameters that I said earlier. Otherwise, it's not a theme run, it's just a run. KO by Razor Burst. Alright, was there anything here I wanted? No, not there. Okay, so one thing I could justify is Magma Rush. Just barely, but I could justify it, but I don't want to change. I wouldn't call Rathalos charming, so no. And granted, with these theme runs, I typically don't... Pardon me. I typically don't worry about relics too much, because, hey, if I'm going to be restrictive on myself, I might as well not limit my relics even. But there wasn't a relic there I really wanted, so we'll just be moving on. Owie. That was my fault for not moving. So for those of you wondering how I reset the cooldown of my airborne slam so quickly, that's one of the things that Scales of Babylon does. Not only does it give you a movement speed boost, but I'm going to take it just because it does kind of suit Rathalos. It's another jump arcana, and, you know, Rathalos likes to fly, so jump arcana, flying, aerial assault, dibbity-dabbity-doobity-dods, whatchamahoo, a dibbity-doo, bibbity-boppity-boo. Anyways, now to get back to what I was saying, I got distracted. Really, Dark Sage? You got distracted? And in other news, bears still shit in the woods. So, those 14 weapon classes are there and accounted for in Generations Ultimate, with one big difference. Boing. Yeah, you guys suck. Hold on. I think... Oh, pardon me. It's all your fault, Riku. She does not care. She's just looking at me like, yeah, okay, whatever. You say it's my fault, but I didn't even wiggle a feather under your nose, so you shut up, woman. Oh, there they go. Alright. Do I have anything here that actually burns? I don't know if I do or not. The only reason why I'm even worried about this is because I'm not sure if I want to pick up Agni Sparkler or not. Guess that'll be determined by what other weapons what other Arcana I find here on this floor. Well, got a little overzealous there. So, yeah, all 14 of those weapons are available in both World and Generations Ultimate, but because they didn't have some of the crazy resources to do like super high def graphics or whatever. I get the feeling that that's why they introduced the system that I probably liked the best in Generations Ultimate, which is the fighting styles. You see, on top of the 14 weapons, there are also, well, in Generations there were 4, in Generations Ultimate there are 6 different fighting styles that you can use that alter what moves you have access to and what the style can be used for. There is the Guild style, which is the weapon as you know it and remember it from from previous Monster Hunter games, with the notable exception of the Lance, which got Lance users up in a tizzy. There's the Striker style, which actually simplified the weapon's moveset and fighting style, but also allowed you to use more Hunter arts. And that's also a thing that doesn't exist in World, so allow me to quickly explain that. What the Hunter arts were essentially, as you fought the monster, you would have a meter build, kind of like a super combo meter from Street Fighter, bringing it right back to that comparison. I can justify Ignition Rush a little bit, but I think the moves I have are still about right. Oh, hello. Come on, do I have anything that I can just get rid of? Alright, so things I'm holding on to. This. I don't really need that. Don't really need that anymore. This, and this. Alright, so I know that ultimately weakened Merchant's Cart by a bit, but getting that extra plus 15 will more than make up for it. Alright, so where was I? Oh yeah, so the Hunter arts were essentially like super moves that you could pull off that had different effects. Like, there's one with the light bowgun that makes it so you can reload all of your ammo types at once, so you don't have to worry about reloading when you change your ammo. You just switch it up, and bing bang boom, you're ready to go. Which is, you know, the cornerstone of a lot of strategies that I use when I'm using the light bowgun. Or there's a general purpose one that just lets you evade out of the way with a huge jump and a whole lot of invulnerability frames on your evasion. So, like I said, in order to make the comparison to Street Fighter even stronger, that's you know, another thing you can just add to the pile. Nope, not there. I'm just gonna go ahead and buy Agni's Sparkler. Just one, it'll replace one of the 2 that I got rid of, and 2, who knows, maybe I'll find something that burns. Why are you still alive? Bewitching glue. No, thank you. So, Striker style allows you to have 3 of those equipped. Guild style only allows you to have 2 equipped. And most of the other styles, with the exception of 1, allow you to have 1 equipped. So, you know, like I said, make that Street Fighter comparison even stronger. So, the other styles, there was... Okay, this is gonna sound funny, but I can justify Knockout Boulder. I justify Knockout Boulder by saying, 1, Rathalos is a monster that loves his projectiles, but 2, and more importantly, Dread King Rathalos has a move where he just drops a big magma ball on the battlefield to make it detonate. Now, you may say, well, how does magma have to do with rock? Well, basically what it is a giant boulder that he spits up onto the battlefield as if he were literally coughing up a kidney stone. Yeah, that's how hardcore Dread King is. He'll try to kill you with his kidney stones. But yeah, it's basically just a giant rock that explodes, so surely you can see the connection there, right? I know some of you were like, but you have the bunny hop combo going. And yes, but simultaneously it would be better if I had like one that lurches you forward and then one that just makes you jump straight up if I was going to go with that. I will buy the Jeweled Tiara. Even though I know it's bugged, I still like it. Oh, I'm a genius. Alright. Anyways, I'm sorry, I keep distracting myself. So, the third style is the aerial style, which is not that. I apologize. I don't know what the hell I was thinking there. Some part of my brain was like, yeah, you don't need to go diagonal, it's okay. You'll just soar right over that pit. Then afterwards, my brain was like, fooled you! So aerial style allows you to use your evade as a technique to jump off of the monster and attack them from the air, which is a means by which to knock them down, to try to make things a little bit easier on the other hunters. I also just personally enjoy airborne fighting. To me, it's just fun. The fourth style is known as the Adept style, and to put this into perspective, understand that when you dodge roll in Monster Hunter, there is such a thing as an invulnerability window that you can use to try to get around or even through monster attacks for both repositioning and, of course, avoiding damage. Now, in World, that skill is known as the evade window skill. In all the other games, it was just the evasion skill. Now, what Adept style does is it takes the idea of evading a monster attack and rewards you Bayonetta style for evading at just the right time. Basically, by allowing you to dodge through the attack with a fancy acrobatic roll, and then allowing you to follow up with a counterattack. Or in some weapons cases, like a special charge, like if you adept evade properly and then go to use the hammer's charge, you'll get a series of special hammer charge moves that aren't available in any other style, which I think is a cool reward for having you play just a little bit dangerously. And for a lot of weapons, Adept is the way that I like to go, because in Monster Hunter 3, I had trained myself to use that evasion skill to its max. So much of my fighting style is based around evading through attacks and then whacking the monster when they're still recovering from their essentially recovery frames. So basically what the evasion skill does is it takes that concept and puts it on steroids and makes me a happy boy. Well, I'm fucked. Okay, yeah, piss off. There's a reason why you have no friends. can't justify that either. And then in Generations Ultimate, or in Japan it was called Double Cross, originally released for the 3DS, but it also got a Switch release, which is the game I've been playing a lot lately. There were 2 new styles added. The Alchemy style, which for one, is the only other style to allow you to use 3 Hunter Arts. But 2 is also a style that's accompanied by essentially the Special Alchemy Barrel, which allows you to essentially use alchemy, or, the video game equivalent of it, since we all know what chemistry really is, to create items and special effects on the fly. It's a more supportive style, but for people who enjoy playing a more supportive role instead of getting up into the monster space and just, whacking as much as possible. I know how that sounded, don't at me. That's basically the style for you, because you can create things like specialized earplugs that you can hand to people and be like, here, use this to evade that monster roar and not be stunned, or you can give them whetstones to be like, here, use this to sharpen your weapon, and hey, while you're at it, it'll also give you a... Let's see, I kind of want to take Sidewinder's badge just for a little extra damage. I think I will drop that. There we go, we're good. And then finally there's the Valor style, which is basically the game's version of high risk, high reward. It gives you a defensive option in the form of giving you a sort of like prepared stance, which allows you to evade, to more or less dodge an incoming attack. But it does so in a way where while you're in the stance, it takes some stamina and slowly drains some health. So, like I said, high risk, high reward. But the other thing that stance does is while you're in, is if you attack out of that special Valor prep stance, you start to build up the Valor meter, which has an effect of giving you some extreme bonuses to your weapons, such as giving you like on-the-fly fast charging for your greatsword, or like a special stance with the longsword that lets you counterattack incoming attacks. Like, it gives you some insane benefits, but like I said, it's high risk, high reward, because you have to start off weaker than usual for the most part, and you have to build up those bonuses. But for a lot of weapons, it kind of became the like, okay, he just said you won, and you're just gonna keep throwing fireballs at him, huh? I mean, you are Rathalos, I understand you have anger issues. So, it's the additional fighting styles and the way that they can change how you hunt any specific monster or how you look at any particular weapon is just amazing to me. But that's not even everything, because in Generations Ultimate, there is also the ability to play as the cats that follow you around. And they have a bunch of their own different styles that you can play with, so I'm not going to get into all of that, but if we take the 14 main weapons, multiply by the idea that there are 6 ways that you can play them, add on, let's see, how many different types of cat are there? Like, just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to say 8, even though I think there might be more. But that essentially means that you have 92 different ways that you can hunt the monsters. Some are maybe a little bit more effective than others in certain areas, but they're all viable, they're all fun. It makes the end game of Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate just massively huge, and that's why it's my Monster Hunter game of choice. Yeah, the graphics aren't as good as they are in World, and there are certain little things that are a little unbalanced, like, in my opinion, the Valor heavy bowgun style. but the game in and of itself has so much variety, so much endgame content, so many different armors to build. Like, that's the reason why it's my Monster Hunter game of choice. And don't get me wrong, I think World is great, but Generations Ultimate just has more to offer. But there you go. That's my take on Monster Hunter, and also the end of my Rathalos themed run. So drop me a like, leave me a comment, let me know what you guys thought of the run. Tomorrow's run will probably be just a regular old run, and I'll also probably talk a little bit more about how the last couple of days D&D games went over tomorrow's run. So yeah, maybe tomorrow I'll also be able to talk normally. So thank you very much for watching, thank you for sharing some of your time with me, and I will see you guys in the next video. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and I will be seeing you